Good morning, folks. Welcome to today's Pastor's Tips for May 21st, 2020. I appreciate you being here, especially those of you who have been sticking it out, throughout these many weeks now. I hope that these have been helpful, and obviously it looks like, anyway, we're going to start winding down on the quarantine, so I expect to not have many more of these pastor's tips, but they'll be on our YouTube channel, and you're welcome to check them out anytime. A lot of the things that we anticipated were going to become issues did end up becoming issues, and we've seen more of that. In fact, I had a conversation with someone this morning, and they're talking about the effects of the quarantine, and even on people with, for lack of a better word, please forgive me, mental issues, maybe depression or whatever the case might be. And now one of the questions is becoming, hey, is this not worse than the disease itself? And I don't know. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying that this has had some expected and some unexpected aspects. Want to talk to you today about re-entry. We expect to start entering churches again, phasing in, for lack of a better word. I'll explain some of that in a second. But either way, we're going to start working ourselves into regular attendance like we used to do. I'm trying to avoid words like normal or new normal, because you know how I feel about that. So I want to talk to you this morning about, especially the Hunters Creek people, what you can expect. But the information given is going to be really to people pretty universally, not universally, but largely universally, because as we've started to prepare to re-enter, and just a lot of reading and a lot of preparation, what you find is different places are identifying some of the same things. So you sit down and you start thinking, okay, what do we need to do? And you think, and you write down notes and you figure out a way to say it and whatever. And then you start reading, okay, well, what are other people doing so that I can, we can add to that, or maybe we're missing something or whatever. And what you find out, is that largely a lot of people are doing the same kinds of things, and we'll cover some of that. But I want to give you this morning because we do plan to start getting back together, and for Hunters Creek, it's going to be May 31st. And so, though I'm primarily, again, speaking to Hunters Creek people, I want everybody to benefit from this, I think. So in Michigan, Governor Whitmer put out an executive order weeks ago, and in which she said, I think it was line item 16 or issue 16, whatever it was, and she said that religious institutions or worship services, if you were going to, or coming from, or at a worship service, you would not be cited. So apparently that was their lenience towards religious institutions and whatnot. Now, here at Hunters Creek, we very intentionally decided to work with the government early on because we wanted to help flatten the curve. We know that this whole virus is new. There's a lot of things we don't know about it. We didn't know if half the population in the world was going to die, or a few people die, or whatever. So we said, well, let's just do our part to work with the government from a common sense civil perspective. And I've tried to be very careful and intentionally dragging my feet on some things so that we could help do that. We want to help out, not be a hindrance. But it looks like now things are starting to even out, and we can get back together. So as we reopen, I want to cover some things that, at least at Hunters Creek, you can expect, and what probably at your local church, wherever you are, you can expect there as well, okay? So let me walk through with you the aspect of an email that we're going to send out that has kind of bullet listed pieces of information. And we did it that way so that, a paragraph can be kind of harder to assimilate into your heart and mind as opposed to very specific. So at least that's how I think, but maybe I'm a little weird. So at this point, let's go. On May 31st, we plan on opening up just having our AM service. And we will encourage people to start entering the facility at 10 a.m. And I'm going to elaborate on how we're going to do that in a little bit so that we can start our worship service at 10:30, which is what we typically do. And we'll continue to have the Facebook Live aspect, which we had beforehand anyway, like a lot of other churches. So I'm going to say this a couple of times. So if you feel uncomfortable for whatever reason to not come, don't come. We want you here. We'd love to see you, blah, blah, blah. But you need to do what you feel is right for you and for your family, your situation. There's no judgment at all, okay? So let me just walk through general information. You're going to get Hunters Creek. You're going to get this as an email. The campus will be sanitized weekly. And when I say that, we actually already do that, but we'll hit all the door handles, things that people might touch, pew tops, things like that. So it will be sanitized weekly, and it will be vacant 24 hours in advance of Sunday morning. So you don't have to worry about people having been in there after it was sanitized, okay? It looks like we'll do at this point, in order to maintain social distancing, is use every other pew and then offset. So like if there's a family of 4 here, the next pew up will have a family of 6 or 2 or whatever. And so that, if you put one in the center, then one to the left and one to the right, you can try to maintain that 6-foot social distancing that the government seems to think is very helpful, okay? We'll tape off the rows, the pew rows that will not be used, okay? We'll have some posted signage in the facility. And these are just reminders, especially for our children, because children could just pop off and run to see their friend or whatever. So we want to try to be careful about them. So if you see a sign that says, hey, avoid physical touching, we're not trying to be mean-spirited. We're trying to be careful for every perspective and view that someone might have out there. Non-access areas like our basement and other rooms and stuff like that will be cordoned off. We'll put some tape up there to let you know. It's not that we don't want you to go there. We just don't want you to go there right now. Okay. We will only have our electronic bulletins. So bulletins will be sent out via email. And we won't be handling paper. So we want you to feel good about that. And a lot of this is so that people feel good about it, quite honestly. Offering plates will be posted at the doors that you can give, so that you can give your offering as you exit. And that way there's no passing of the plate or anything like that. The only people that touch it will be you in your offering. And for us, you can use Tithely. You can either go through our website and go to the Tithely website, or you can use the app and give that way. That way nobody touches it but you and your device or computer, whatever the case might be. Secondly is the entry and exit aspects. So what we'd like to do, and this is only to try to help control traffic flow, which helps control contact. And we're not thinking about, like adults that have some discipline and some control over their self. We're doing these kinds of things to try to prevent the people who, feel like, we should just all hug. And you may feel that way. I feel that way. But I don't want to be an offense to somebody who doesn't feel that way. We want to avoid children, like I said, just running off, taking off, and whatever. So what we're going to try to do at Hunters Creek is enter in from the gym. The back side of the gym and those main doors, what I'm talking about, would have the bathrooms on either side. You can start coming in at 10. When you come in, you will be, greeted by an usher or an elder, an usher or a board member. And what they will do is direct you basically to the next spot. And there might be some tape on the floor to help us maintain this 6 foot distance, kind of like when you've gone into a store to kind of stagger people that way. All right, so we want to do that. At some point in there, you'll be offered some PPE, a mask, some gloves if you want, and some antibacterial solution. These are optional. I don't believe, at least at this point in Michigan, wearing a mask is required. Quite honestly, only legislature can make laws, not governors, because by Constitution, you can't make a law and execute the law or punish based on that law. You just can't do that. So if you need it, take it, but don't take it if you don't need it, because some of this stuff is getting kind of scarce and we don't want to spend money. We don't have to. We're already having to spend money we don't want to. Okay, we're going to challenge and encourage every family unit to stick together. Now, I know that's going to be easier said than done, but please do your best, because remember, we're working on other people's conscience sakes as well. It's not just about you and your family unit. It's about other people and how they feel about coming together as well. So try to keep your family as a unit together as best you can. Once we come in and we do our PPE and you're able to move forward to the next station, you'll be guided to some down our education wing, and you'll take a right, go towards the narthex, and then towards the sanctuary, and then you'll be like basically ushered down to your seating, and the deacons, the ushers will sit you in a way that we can best promote the social distancing. So what we'll do is we'll take the first person or persons to the very front of the sanctuary, and we'll work our way backward. There's a reason for that, so we don't cross people constantly and invading their 6 foot social distancing area. Then when we release, we'll do it exactly opposite. We'll go from back to front. So whoever's seated last will be the first out, that kind of thing. Okay, like think about like a funeral or a wedding or something like that. We will in the back have 2 distinct areas cordoned off. There'll be one for young families, say with children, that you might need to take them to a nursing center or take them out to change a diaper, that kind of thing. That way you don't have to pass many people and you don't become, a distraction in any way. And then secondly, we'll have one for our older folks or anybody that might be handicapped. I don't know if that's a good word anymore, but you know what I mean. So what we'll try to do is eliminate as much movement as possible, and especially for our older folks who maybe they use a walker or walking is difficult. We're glad you're here, but we do want to make it as easy on you as we can, okay? So you'll know that when you get here, you'll know where to get, and the deacons will be able to help you out with that. Some cautions, and that is, again, just be mindful of your social distancing the whole time you're here, and there's reasons for this. If you are immunocompromised or potentially immunocompromised, we'd love to have you here again, but just please do whatever you think is best and right. And if you think coming is not good, or you have grandchildren or somebody in your family that you see on a regular basis or in your household that might be immunocompromised, please don't come. We love you, no judgment. We want you to be here, but please don't come for their sake and maybe even for your sake, okay? Well, again, we'll still be doing Facebook Live, so you're welcome to get that. You just go to the Hunters Creek public page on Facebook, and you'll be able to get that. Avoid commonly touched areas. We'll have doors propped open. We'll have ushers at doors for doors that can't be propped open so they can open and shut it for you. Avoid things like water fountains and restrooms. Don't go if you don't have to. If you have to, again, all of our restrooms, you can't see a stall or a urinal or whatever from the door anyway, so you should be good to go. If you have been in contact with a symptomatic person, or you think you've been in contact with a symptomatic person, you may want to stay home as well, okay? If you have been diagnosed with COVID, I would ask you please to contact me That way, everybody doesn't, have to get that knowledge. And I can work with you about ways that we can get services to you and things like that. We also will have hyperlinks to the government's information, as well as the National Center for Life and Liberty is a legal institution. David Gibbs III, I think you'll find that to be very helpful. In this email, you will find a little green document there that you can print out and post it on your refrigerator. We'll try to send this out this coming Monday. So you can print it out, put it there, and just basically see the 6 or 7 essential things to kind of keep in mind, just to remind you when you do get here that day. And also, what I will do is send you out a video with this email that kind of walks you through the stages, so you'll know what to expect. Think of it as a mock presentation, and you'll know what, where to stand, where to go to next, who to kind of see next, and what seating will be like, what being released will be like, and that kind of thing, okay? So we'll try to have that out for you very early next week. So, we're trying to do everything the best we can, and I'm just going to be honest with you. This has been very frustrating. It's been very difficult. Understand that you have a lot of people out there with a variety of different views and opinions. There are some of us who think, this is all dumb. Only 0.03% of people are affected or dying. Let's just, get it all together. Well, that sounds good, and it might be right, but it's not necessarily what everybody's feeling. And perception is reality. And as Christians, we want to be gracious and merciful. It's like when Paul dealt with people who didn't want to eat meat, or meat that was offered in an idol's temple. Paul said, there's no other God but the one God, the God of the Bible, Jehovah God. So we know that. So if you eat meat that's offered to a God that doesn't exist, it's just steak. But if somebody sees you do it, they could be offended, and their conscience could be offended. Their spiritual development could be affected. So that's what we're trying to be careful of, okay? Not that these people are necessarily unspiritual. I'm just saying they have a different view, perspective. Maybe their situation is different. They got grandparents that are ill or whatever. Could be 1,000 things. And we're just trying to be careful, okay? So if you have any questions about this, and I know I haven't hit all the details, please text me or email me. You're welcome to call me, but if you text me or email me with a question, you're probably asking a question that somebody else already has asked or will ask, and I can copy paste and it'll just save me a gazillion bits of time, okay? Patience. Please be patient. It would take the patience of Job and the wisdom of Solomon for us to do everything exactly right. And $1 to a donut says we are not going to get everything right, but we are trying. I've consulted with pastor friends from different states, locally. We've looked at the CDC website. We've looked at legal organizations' websites and a variety of things. And we really are trying to do the best thing for everybody, which is almost impossible to do. So please be patient with me and the board. Again, stay home if you feel like you need to stay home. But let me kind of close with a couple of cautions about staying home. Number one, let me be clear about this. Home worship is not biblical. You say, yeah, but didn't they gather in homes in the first century? Yes, they did gather in homes. So they had somebody's house because they didn't have a church yet and they couldn't go to the synagogue or the temple. They gathered in somebody's home, and it could have been 4 people, it could have been 400 people, or maybe more, say in Jerusalem, or thousands, okay? So staying home and being by yourself and watching your favorite preacher or me or whoever else is not necessarily biblical. Don't think that, well, I went to church, I did it virtually. There's reasons for that. I'm going to give you 2 real quick. Number one, in Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 28, the classical text about corporate gathering is this. Hebrews 10:25 says, don't neglect the assembling of yourselves together as the manner of some is, so much more as you see the day approaching. So we would fit right in there. Even if this isn't the last times, it looks like it could be, and I expect whatever the last days are will probably start out something like this. So if the writer of Hebrews, maybe Luke, says, don't do it, especially like some people are doing, particularly when it looks like the last days, that's pretty clear that that's not an option for us. Unless you can't, that's really not an option. If you can get together, you should be getting together. And I'll send out an email about this about a week before we get together to the Hunters Creek folks, because I'm anticipating, some different mentalities on that. And then the last one is in Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 1. The writer of this proverb says, whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound judgment. So God has made us to be communal beings. God has called the church, the called out ones, to come together, to gather, to assemble. Okay? So for us to stay home because it's more comfortable or whatever the reason might be, is simply ungodly. It's just wrong. So if you can get out, it's really just not an option. So there's a lot more that could go into this. Again, Hunters Creek people, you'll get this as an email. But please do pray for us. We look forward to seeing you. And I'm a toucher. I love hugging people and touching people and talking to people. It's difficult. So I can't wait to hug you and shake your hand and all that kind of stuff. But we just want to be sensitive to other people's concerns and do our best to do our part of that. Okay, so let me just encourage you to be patient with us, to pray for us, to participate with us, and those kinds of things. And Lord willing, we'll see you ASAP. If nothing else, Lord willing, we'll see you on Facebook Live every Lord's Day. Okay, and remember, treat it like a worship service. I don't care how you dress. I mean, believe it or not, one day I had on blue jeans. I had on a nice shirt, but I had on blue jeans. But the message is the same, right? So you didn't see my blue jeans. But do treat it like a worship service, because it's supposed to be a worship service. Amen. Thank you for your time and your patience and your participation in these videos. Feel free to share this with other people, especially those of you who know someone that goes to Hunters Creek but doesn't get these or hasn't been getting them or whatever. Okay. Lord bless. Have a wonderful weekend. See you on Facebook Live this coming Lord's Day at 11 a.m. And for Hunters Creek people, I sent you out an email a week or so ago and told you that we would be having a very special message a week or so before we get together. Well, that's this coming Sunday. And so I want to encourage you to be there, encourage people that either unchurched or unconverted to be there, and you'll see why. And this is why I prepared you for this a couple weeks ago, this coming Sunday. So this is the day. God bless. Have a good one. Bye-bye.